everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon, and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope this is the best year of your life. For me personally, I'm so happy that 2024 is over. It had been an extremely difficult year. It was not a great year. And there's something about being able to have the finality of a bad year end. You know, it's over. All right, I can turn over that new page on my calendar. It's a new year. It's a new month. I'm ready to move forward. So God willing, 2025 is a better year. You know, what I'm going to talk about in today's video, I want to tell you guys a little bit about what happened last year and what my plans are moving forward as the year progresses. And I'm going to do that by telling you a story about a little mouse that I used to have. Some of you may know the story about my mouse Lawson, but it ties in. So just hear me out and you'll see what I'm talking about, or you'll hear what I'm talking about. About 8 years ago, my kids found an abandoned deer mouse in our yard. Now, he was a little baby. He was about a week old. His eyes were still sealed shut. His ears were folded over. He was in this little ball. They found him in our yard at the time in New Hampshire. And they come running in and tell me they found this animal. And so ultimately we decided we were hoping its mother would come back. So the kids stayed outside watching to make sure that nothing harmed it, you know, while we were waiting, and hopefully, but they were back enough so the mother could come get the mouse. Well, as it turns out, the mouse did not come back. The mother did not come back. The mouse was getting some attention from a red squirrel. So we decided to bring it in the house. We were trying to save it. So we tried to save this mouse. We ended up, we didn't know what we were doing at the time, but we ended up getting a heat pad for him. We got him some food. I mean, we were looking up what to do. And ultimately, this little mouse thrived. And it was amazing. I was so bonded to this mouse. We had this little guy. He had to eat every 2 hours. So I set my alarm every 2 hours. This was for a few days until his eyes opened. And I got a little paintbrush, the teeniest paintbrush I could find, and I dipped it in kitten milk, and he would eat off that little paintbrush every 2 hours. And I was afraid when he opened his eyes that he was going to be afraid, you know, because I was this giant person, but he wasn't. We imprinted on each other. He was amazing. And I know it's a mouse, but I'm telling you, it was like a cat or a dog to me, just the bond that I had, probably because of how, you know, I fed him and was with him and I hand raised him, weaned him, you know, that probably was why, but he was very special to me. As time went on and he got older, of course, mice don't live that long. I was afraid I was going to be so upset, you know, when he passed on, it was going to be devastating. And it was 2 years, 2.5, 3, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he can't live that much longer. He lived 4 years, it's like a person living to 150, right? But when it's your pet, it's never enough. But when he passed on that morning, I couldn't believe it. I woke up, I walked, you know, in to feed him, as I usually do, and he had passed away overnight. I was okay. I mean, I was sad, but I wasn't gutted. I wasn't devastated. I don't even think I cried. So I was in shock. How am I couldn't believe I wasn't gutted. It didn't occur to me at the time, by the way, that I was in shock. I just thought, wow, I'm really handling this maturely. So the days going by and I would check in with myself every so often. And why am I not upset by this? What's wrong with me? Why am I okay with this? You know? And we hadn't buried him yet. I expected maybe that was going to be emotional, but I was all right. I'm prepared to do this. And it was weird. So my daughter said to me that night, we were supposed to go out. We were supposed to go to my daughter and I at the time, we're doing a mother-daughter group with some other mother and daughters. So my daughter said, you know, we'll just skip tonight. I don't know. You're really upset about Lawson. I'm like, no, let's go. I'm okay. I'm really okay. So we went. Then we're in the middle of this group. I'm sitting there with a bunch of other mothers and daughters around the fire when suddenly it was like I was smacked across the face. The grief assaulted me. I mean, this was not a little tap of grief. Here I am, it's coming. No, it was just the onslaught, the tsunami of grief. It just covered me right in front of everybody. And I didn't want to make a scene. I didn't want anyone to know. Now, I don't know if this is a me thing or a girl thing, but there are times when I literally cannot control myself from crying. So I will not want to cry. it is the last thing I want to do, but it will just, it is beyond my control. So I was desperately trying not to get to that point. So everyone's talking and I'm like biting the inside of my mouth, biting my lips, and desperately, and my fingernails digging into my hands, desperate not to cry. Eventually I had to just get up rudely and just go to my car. And then I'm trying to calm down. I'm like hyperventilating in my car, like, okay, I just got to get through just a little bit more. So I'd go back and I'd sit there and I was okay for a few seconds. And Paris is looking at me like, what the hell's going on? And then again, had to go to the car. Eventually I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. I have a terrible migraine. Like we have to go. So we left. But the onslaught came on. There was this insulation, you know. I was going through my day. I was doing what I had to do. I was cleaning out his cage. I was putting his stuff away. I was okay until I wasn't. And then the grief hit. And then you know how it is when you're going through grief. It's painful. And I went through it and I had to do that. And it was okay. But it hit me later. And I was going through my day not naively. I don't even know why. And the same thing happened to me with narcissism, which I'm going to talk about. I wasn't thinking that I was in shock. I was going through my day thinking, you know what? I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. And then suddenly I wasn't. And I wasn't expecting this to happen. So I want to kind of go back to what I was saying about last year. This happened to me last year with the narcissism recovery. It was like I was at that group and suddenly the grief hit me. I didn't realize, you know, I've been divorced now for 2 years. I didn't realize that that the recovery process was going to be me not so much grieving the marriage or grieving my ex, but grieving the life I thought we were living, grieving, being angry, just angry. How could this have happened? Pissed off. Why? You know, and then on top of it, going through, and I feel like, you know, I really got taken advantage of in the divorce. I feel like I didn't get the best I could have. I don't think I did the best I could for my kids. And I realized I was in a state of shock. And now it's like the scales are gone. And once they're gone, you can't unsee it. And it's pure, raw pain. And this is, it's like a grief. And this is what happened to me all last year. It was just the onslaught of everything that happened. You know, when I was with the narcissist, and I was with my ex for 20 years. And then it just, all this crazy happened. I had to run away and we're in a new state and I'm going through this divorce and my ex is sending the police to the house. And so all these things are happening. And, you know, multiple times they send in the police to the house and I'm living on adrenaline and fear. You know, I'm an insomniac. I'm up all hours of the night. It just, these things have really affected me, but I didn't expect it to all of a sudden hit me like it did that time with Lawson, you know, at my friend's house where suddenly there was the onslaught. And this happened to me last year, but I feel better. It's over. I hope, I think I got through it, but that's what I want to do this coming year. And, you know, and that's what led me to being absent from a lot of videos last year. I'm trying to do better. I started this channel to help people. You know, when I learned about narcissism, no, of course I realize lots of people know about narcissism, but I did not. When I first learned about it, I didn't know. And when I learned about it, I wanted to share it with other people who I knew were living as confused a life as I was. I want to do that. That's my plan moving forward with the channel this year related to narcissism. I want to tell you what to expect afterwards, what you can do to make the landing softer. I want to tell you things in retrospect, right? You know, a friend of mine once told me, this is how he described, you know, us versus God seeing the same thing. We look through, imagine looking through a straw, right? You look through a straw, you see this little tiny picture of what's going on in the world. God has the full view, right? So if you're in the middle of this, you're going through it, you're looking through a straw, you might not be aware of it. You might be like me thinking, wow, I'm handling this really well, or I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking care of this exactly right. But you're actually looking through it through a straw. So I have the full picture because I've all the way through it. So I want to tell you the things I've learned, the things I wish I had done differently, things you can do differently. It's not too late for some of you to make a huge difference in the outcome of how things turn out. So thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I've been spotty last year. I'm going to try to commit to every Friday, new video. So beginning today. So I will see you guys next week. Watch the channel for shorts. I do little shorts of my little animal friends. I hope everybody's well. Happy New Year, and I will see you guys next week. God bless.